Good evening. This is Committee of the Whole on March 2nd. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu.
Here.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Hersey. Here. Councilmember Bishop.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkin. Councilmember Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of a previous meeting for February 9th, 2026 City Council meeting. Can I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Moved by Chris and seconded by Sharice. Are there any changes? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, additions to the agenda. Do we have any additions this evening? Looking around the room. Vince is not allowed to have additions this evening. Okay. Public input. If you would like to address the committee, please step up to the microphone and state your name for the record.
Yes, it's on.
It's on. You can hear me?
You can always take the mic off the stand, too.
That's okay. All right, my name is Charles Warmbrun. I live on Vine Street here in Urbana, and I'm here to discuss Ordinance 26-03-007, which is the elimination of parking on Vine Street from George Huff to Holmes and Pell Circle. It's a little confusing to me. So I sent you all an email, I guess, on Saturday. I hope you've been able to read it. There's some certain things that I just don't understand how the Traffic Commission worked on this particular issue. And I'm going to jump to, I guess, February 19th when the residents were finally aware that the signs had been put up, that there would be no parking. The Traffic Commission had originally decided to eliminate parking on both sides of the street from Holmes to Pell Circle. Now, we go through all this from December 2nd meeting all the way to February. And then we, February 20th, the signs go up, and the recommendation then in the packet is for no parking from George Huff to Pell Circle on the east side of the street, and no parking from George Huff just to Holmes on the west side of the street. So there's an area there that you can park on now that wasn't in the original motion that they made on the 2nd of December at their meeting. And then looking at their bylaws, it says that the chairperson, concerning the functions and the duties of the Urbana Traffic Commission, chairperson made during an interim period between the Traffic Commission's meetings shall be subject to ratification by remaining members of the Traffic Commission, with such ratification requiring unanimous approval of such decisions. Okay, so then in my mind, from somewhere in the middle of February to when they got the packet out on the 27th, there should have been another meeting of the Traffic Commission or somebody to ratify this particular change. What you're really doing here is you're eliminating Ordinance 77-95, which was an ordinance that was passed in 1977 that said there was no parking from George Huff to Holmes on the west side of the street, period. It leaves the east side, people have been parking there for, well, at least since 1977, but I'm sure probably prior to that. Alderman Quisenberry's problem has it with Schedule J, which Schedule J has that particular ordinance in it, but it has no ordinance for banning the parking from Florida Avenue to George Huff. It seems to be missing somewhere. Nobody seems to know where it is. Really, that's about it. There's been no statistical information provided by anybody that says that this is a safety concern, that there's been accidents there. I'm talking mainly now between George Huff and Holmes on the east side. The the Traffic Commission in your package, they put out a curve analysis, and that was, at least it's dated in the package on February 20th, so I don't believe that was presented at the Traffic Commission meeting. I've been on the zoning board for like not a little, but over 29 years now, and I've seen how the council can act, and you guys can reject some of your staff recommendations. I've seen it done before. So I'd like you to really think about this. What really needs to be done is you just need to change that Schedule J to reflect that there is no parking from Florida to George Huff on either side of the street, and leave everything else the way it was. There's no reason to change anything else. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Would anybody else like to address the committee? Do we have any emails? Okay, all right. Thank you very much for your input tonight. Moving on, we have staff report of Public Works Campus Remodel and Funds.
Just pull it up real quick. All right, good evening. I'd like to start off, introduce Troy Richmond. For those of you who have not met him, he's been with us for 14 years now, helping out with public facilities. He's currently our public facilities supervisor, and he's been working hard on this project as well as most of our facilities projects that we put out over the past several years. So I'm glad to have him here helping me out. This is an update on a project that we've been working on for a couple years now, and we're getting ready to move forward. So we thought that we'd bring this to your attention. So if there are any questions as we hopefully get started in construction here soon, you'll be well aware of what's going on. So the Public Works renovation project, this came out of our facilities master plan that was completed in 2019, 2020. Along with the other projects that we've put forth, the storage building, the lobby renovations, and the fire station projects that are now being punch list. This is kind of the next big key large project that came out of that study we're eager to get going on. The key findings from that project that we based the scope of work on include the fact that our vehicle maintenance and storage in our facilities are undersized for our current needs, specifically our fleet and maintenance operations. We do fleet repair of the fire trucks, the police vehicles, all of our large equipment for Public Works, as well as the motor pool. I think about 200 assets that we maintain with 4 full-time mechanics, a fleet supervisor, and a parts attendant. The master plan also recommended, along with that, relocating Arbor Division from their shop out on the Landscape Recycling Center back to Public Works, the site on Glover Avenue, and also made a recommendation for expansion of the locker rooms and the break space to accommodate those moves from those 15 or so employees, as well as some upgrades to the interior office space, including our front reception area and new restroom facilities upstairs for our engineering team, as well as carpet, paint, furnishing, and those types of recommendations. I'll point out that the master plan also made some facilities condition recommendations that was included in the first phase of that, the facilities condition assessment. So this project's also going to be taking into consideration addressing some critical deferred maintenance items. In regards to project implementation, we contracted with Farnsworth Group in May of 2024 via an RFQ to provide the professional architectural and engineering services needed to get this project underway. For funding for the project, in the current capital improvement plan, the FY 26 through 30 capital improvement plan, we have $6.5 million currently allocated and approved for construction in the capital replacement CR&I fund. And those are ready to go for our construction project. In regards to scoping, we worked with Farnsworth starting from 2024 through 2025 in a schematic design process. We called in our engineering team, operations group, worked together, admin, came up with a few different recommendations for site layouts and plans. The original facilities master plan called for renovation of 704 Glover, which is the older storage facility directly adjacent to our current Public Works site. That was a shared storage space that when we built 610 Glover, the 25,000 square foot new building that we put up, we've moved most of our storage out of 704 Glover into the new building in 610. The thought was that we were going to reuse 704 Glover for a new fleet facility. However, we found out in schematic design that because of the nature of the block wall construction, that it was not eligible for rehabilitation. We essentially would have had to take the facility down to the ground and come up with new. So given that information, we decided it would be best to leave 704 Glover in kind and then replace it with a new steel structure that we'll touch on here in a bit. The original schematic design incorporated the full recommendations from the facilities plan. When we went with the architect and started to develop construction documents in July 2025, at the review of the owner review of the 50% construction document design, our engineering team provided a probable cost of construction for $11.4 million as it was scoped there with all the recommendations. Given we had a $6.5 million construction budget, we determined obviously that we were way far off the mark. So we had to come back and do some serious consideration and value engineering to what we could actually accomplish and keep the project under budget. Similar as we did when we talked about the fire stations, we had the essential, the amplified, and the enhanced process where we talked about everything that we were putting into the building, and essentially we fallen back just on essential. So there's nothing in here that's above and beyond just what we need to meet the basic needs today with what we can afford under the budget. So what's in the current scope of work is in phase one is what we have funded and what we have released out for bid. This work includes a new fleet maintenance facility and a new operation vehicle and equipment bay, as well as addressing some critical deferred maintenance items that we're going to walk through here in a minute, and Troy's going to help me with that. With that construction work done, it's set us in a position where we can come back, and we'll come back when we talk about funding the CR&I in the capital improvement plan in the future, finding funding to move forward with the additional recommendations, which include relocating the Arbor Division back to 706 Glover and the interior office spaces that I touched on earlier. Just to note that those will have to be part of future planning and budgeting discussions in the capital improvement plan when we come back in the future. So with that, I'm going to let Troy walk through the scope of work and what we plan to accomplish with the project.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is going to be an interesting approach to how we're going to do this since it's existing facility. We're going to have to kind of shift our operations around a little bit, but that first slide up there is the building as it stands with the red box around it, kind of shows what we're going to demolish, and the rendering below shows the new facility as it's going to stand, kind of a rendering by Farnsworth Group. You've got two halves there. The first three bays there are the operations department, and then the next four is the mechanics working area. It's going to be quite a bit larger than where we're at now. It's going to actually expand into our parking area for our employees, which is going to cause a little switch around the way we have things laid out right now. But this is an overall plan. Everything on the right-hand side over there shows the 3 bays. You see the 3 bays right there for fleet. You've got 2 drive-throughs so they can pull fire engines and some of the bigger vehicles straight through. There's a couple of smaller bays for fleet vehicles that they can pull in with lifts. They've got some work area in the center there for some fabricating their tool benches. Basically, it's going to be just a really good process for them to work on vehicles, be able to pull things in, raise them all the way up with the wireless lifts that we have, and to get the job done without being off-site. Right now, we're kind of scattered between two buildings due to the space needs. So we're trying to get everybody under one house so that their tools, the equipment, all the work gets done in a timely manner and it's efficient. The center of those two facilities is going to be a oil storage room, a parts room, a couple of offices, and a little locker room for the mechanics so that they can keep clean and have an area to take breaks in. It also incorporates a storm shelter, and by the International Council, we have to have a storm shelter big enough, adequate enough to house the largest room in the facility. So that's the way the council and the code has it now. So that area right there that Vince is outlining is going to be that reinforced concrete storm shelter area. Very similar to the ones at the fire station. If you've been to the fire station, it's going to have one of those drop-down doors with outside ventilation. So if anything were to happen in the building, everybody that's inside of Public Works could fit inside of there. We built that in comparison to the second phase of this project where we were going to have a very large break room over on that side of the facility, which could house about 60 to 70 people at one time, so the storm shelter had to incorporate that. It was a pretty significant portion of this project because of the reinforcement that goes into that area. The second side on the part that Vince is highlighting now is the operations bay. That's where our larger trucks, our snow and ice operations, and our day-to-day operations staff will be able to pull in, load up, unload, checklist the vehicles, keep them clean, just keep the operations department moving. Right now we have one overhead door in and one overhead door out. It creates kind of a traffic snafu. You have to back things out to pull things in, and it's kind of like a game of switcheroo. We're always moving things around. This will increase productivity and enhance our service to the city and all its residents. So here's the site plan. It's kind of confusing, but all the grayed areas is basically asphalt. It's basically our redoing all of that area because the concrete and the asphalt, it's all just, it needs to be repaired. It needs to be replaced. Part of the expansion of this building is taking over that parking area, which is causing us to relocate the staff parking to the east side of the property on the border between 704 and 610. So that's a huge undertaking for an asphalt parking lot just so that we can incorporate the size of the expansion of the 20,000 square foot addition that we're going to put on. In the meantime, all of that asphalt and all of that parking and driving lanes all the way around both facilities, they're in disarray. They need complete replacement. There's no saving any of that stuff. These hard trucks, the pictures show the alligator splintering of all of that asphalt. It's ruined and needs to be replaced, so we incorporated that into part of the project, just to make sure we've got good, clean driving lanes. The picture on the right shows the current structure that we're going to demolish and the way that the roof and the insulation is saturated and is leaking. It's just years of wear and tear and the deferred maintenance that we are talking about earlier that we can't keep deferring that. We need to replace it. Now, the picture on the left shows the current facility. You've got several structures there. The one with the white roof, that's the one that we're going to be demolishing and taking off and replacing with the new structure. The other three roofs that are there is the Public Works facility that has much deferred maintenance on the roofing. We're going to be doing some roof coatings on the two rubberized systems that Vince is highlighting, and then the ballast system, that's the oldest portion of the building above our engineering department, is actually rock, ballasted rock. We're going to remove that, and we're going to completely replace that. That roof leaks. We've got interior problems with water getting in. It's just deferred maintenance that we need to get done. So adding that to this project just seemed very proactive to go ahead and get out in front of things that we need to do anyhow. The picture on the right shows the generator that we're planning on replacing that's going to be able to sustain the facility and keep it operational during a storm. That generator actually used to live right outside of this building. This was the original generator for City Hall. When they did the 98 remodel here, we just couldn't let it go, so they moved it over to Public Works and repurposed it. We accept hand-me-downs. It's how things work. That has reached its end of life. We can't use it again. The new facility is just too big. We have to replace it. One of the things that this new facility is going to be equipped for is solar. So while that's not in the plan, our environmental manager is working with me to make sure that the new setup is going to be equipped to have enough solar on it to power the entire facility. So we're excited about that, but we still need a generator just in case the sun doesn't come up tomorrow.
Great. Thank you, Troy. So where we're at today, we released the scope of work that I discussed in phase one for invitation to bid. February, we had five local contractors bid the job. The low bid started at $6.255 million, and the high bid was $7,080,000. So on a project of this size and scope, we were pretty pleased with that kind of tight grouping of bid pricings. It kind of lets us know that the plans were understandable, clear, and concise. So we've reviewed the low apparent bidder, and it appears that everything is in order. We are looking forward to executing a contract with them, hopefully, within the next 30 to 60 days, but hopefully sooner rather than later with that. The metal steel structure is kind of the limiting factor in that. The sooner we can get the contract awarded and get them certainty, they can get that pre-engineered steel metal building ordered and in the queue so that we can meet our construction deadlines. With that, we're hopeful that we could start as soon as the mid to end of April if we can get our contract awarded within the next 2 weeks. So speaking to the budgetary considerations for this, as I mentioned in the beginning, we had $6.5 million budgeted for construction in the capital replacement and improvement plan. With a base bid of $6.255 million, we've also added a $70,000 earmark for furnishings and fixtures. That's office furniture for the 2 new offices in the fleet space, hose reels, 2 air compressors, that sort of equipment. We've got itemized and listed for that. We've also got a $50,000 earmark for utility expenses. That's working with AMRN and the sanitary district, the connection fees, as well as some third-party expenses for proof rolling and pavement testing, concrete, that sort of work, commissioning of our electrical systems and the generator. So with all of those costs, we're still $125,000 below the budget amount in the construction budget. However, with that, it is important that we do make sure we have at least 10% available for project contingency. So that would be $625,000 less what we're currently below. The $125,000 would mean we'd need an additional $500,000 just available for contingency in the event that we need to do any change orders or came across anything that we did not expect as part of that. We do have that fund balance available. We do have that available now in the fund balance of the CR&I in the capital improvement plan. And then we'll be working as part of our FY27 budget process to accommodate. That CR&I is funded annually with the general fund transfer. So we'll be working with finance and coming with recommendations how to add additional funds to that to make sure that we have that contingency and it doesn't affect other future projects that are currently planned out from that fund. So with that, I said, yeah, we're eager, excited about the facilities master plan rolling into our backyard at Public Works. Looking forward to get started as soon as April, and we'll entertain any questions.
All right, questions? Charisse, did you have a question or just move in?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, Chris?
Thank you for the presentation. This may be for Elizabeth. This began in 2019 and 2020 with the facilities master plan. Has the $6.5 million already been, squirreled away and saved and ready to go?
It's in this year's budget.
Okay. And then the question is where are we going to get 500,000 more? Is that right?
Correct. And I think we know the answer to that already. We've had a number of vacancies in Public Works during this year, and I think the savings from salaries and benefits from those alone will cover that. So we'll spend less during this fiscal year, and then when we give you the proposed budget for next year, we'll show that additional $500,000 being transferred over to the Capital Improvement Fund to provide the contingency that they need for the project.
Thank you. So that raises a question to you, Vince. Can you go without those salaried employees?
The point is, we've been without those positions.
Already,
Yeah,
yeah.
since July 1st of this fiscal year. So what we're speaking to is that with the vacancies we've had in the director position.
Oh, I see.
the
The
city-
one-time 500,000
Yes,
can be
exactly.
raised.
So,
Okay.
so it's available today in regards to Public Works in our budget as unspent funds. However, the general fund transfer is part of our annual process for the capital improvement replacement plan. So we'll just work with Elizabeth to recoup that as part of our annual transfer. The point that I said now is that we do have fund balance. If there's anything between now and June 30th that would require a change order, the fund balance could carry that over until the new budget's presented in July 1.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Charisse?
Yes. Hi, Troy. Hi, Vince.
Hi.
Okay. I just want to understand. Could you go through some of these pictures again? This one, I think, the map of the building, of the new building. Okay, so the middle part, yeah, that part, that's going to have like an underground type of build, because you said there's going to be a shelter. I'm just trying to understand how you're doing that.
Yeah, the storm shelter itself will be, if you had the opportunity to tour the fire stations, the new fire stations,
Yeah.
how the locker spaces in there, you walk in, you can't really, it's not as noticeable, but those are designed in regards to the block walls, the CMU masonry, and the deck, the roof deck of that to meet all the ratings for tornado-proof storm shelter. That's the same design that we'll have incorporated into this working space here, so it'll serve multifunction. So this little common space here between the offices, the locker room and the restrooms that design will be incorporated as the storm shelter. So when the tornado warning comes, we'll have a place to accommodate approximately 60 employees safely during the storm.
Okay, and the other space where you said like you'd be able to bring fire trucks and stuff in?
Correct. This line down the center here is actually a trench drain, so we'll be able to pull large fire apparatus all the way through and park, so you could hypothetically have 2 large fire engines simultaneously in this one east bay that could pull in and pull out.
Okay.
While allowing for, if we were working on our end loaders and other large equipment in this bay at the same time. And there'll be doors here. These are just for smaller light duty trucks and passenger vehicles. So you could have 2 vehicles up on a lift, 2 large fire engines, and then a whole nother fire bay or a whole nother drive-through bay that allows us to work on large equipment simultaneously. Currently, in the current configuration, we're in this space right here with one drive-through bay that accommodates all of our operations. So anybody coming into the tool room or the sign shop or our sewer crews and trucks, they need to drive through there. So we just don't have a good working space right now to park large apparatus for long periods of time without going back across the street. Once we moved a lot of our storage for police and fire out of 704 here into their new facility here, we've been able to temporarily accommodate some of this storage facility to, if we're breaking down a large engine overhaul on a fire truck, that could be 3 or 4 weeks. Now we'll be able to park a truck in one specific location and still be able to use the remainder of the area, pulling vehicles in and out.
Okay, I just wanted to understand. I don't read these little schematics very well, so I just wanted to understand
It's a lot of information in a small picture,
Oh,
so
yeah.
glad to help.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, I have a couple. Sure. I've been taking note here. So I think I heard you say that the bays, the addition of the bays is an additional 20,000 square feet. Is that correct?
The entire new pre-engineered steel structure is 20,000 square feet.
And then you mentioned that when it was scoped out again, it was about 11.5 million, roughly speaking. And so is it safe to say that it's another 6.5 million to do the other items that aren't on that list? I'm just wondering if there's a breakout, say, for the Arbor Division, like how much would that cost? It would be handy for us to know that breakdown.
Sure, absolutely. We could probably put that together and send what the original schematic design was and pull out those parts and pieces that aren't in phase one. But I would probably say from 6.2 to 11 point, probably about another $4 to $5 million to, which would be recapture once fleet's completely out and in the new facility. This area right here that I'm outlining is a fleet bay in the oil storage. We have a design to reconfigure a new break room area to accommodate all the new employees with new changing areas here, and then upgrading our supervisor office area here. So that's where that kind of gap, and we'd have to come back in the future for probably an additional $4 to $5 million, kind of off the top of my head.
So just to confirm, we have this expansion here. We have the resurfacing, for lack of a better word, of the parking lot.
Correct.
And we have the roofs that are going to be repaired. Is that correct?
Correct. And then the electrical upgrades, including the generator.
Okay, yes, the inhibitor. And just because I always like to ask this question, I know that construction costs have skyrocketed in the past couple of years.
Yes.
The facilities review ended, I think, in 2020, if I'm correct?
Correct.
And at that time, do you remember what their estimate was for how much it would take to implement all of the items?
I don't recall off the top of my head, but it was very low. I can tell you that
I figured it was
now.
very low, but
Yes.
I did want to ask. I'm pleasantly surprised that the bids came in kind of where we wanted them to come
Right.
in, which is
Yeah.
really nice. But just out of curiosity, if it's not too difficult, I'd like to know what they originally said it was going to cost us.
Sure,
So
yeah.
that we can compare.
I can send that, pull the information from the facilities master plan now, just keeping in mind that that was a really high level kind of.
Sure. Yeah, they really
Overview.
attacked the fire stations in that master plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'll pull that out for you. Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Well, James.
Yes, I just want to go back to Chris's question. I think the short answer to Chris's question would have been no, which was, could you do without those $500,000 worth of staff going forward? I assume the answer is no.
No, we're
Because
very.
I assume some of that is like the Arbor positions that we've added but not yet hired,
Correct.
right?
We've
So
had
that's
the
growth we planned on.
We budgeted for the new city arborist position as of July 1st, and we're just moving into interviews for that position, hopefully within the next 2
We have a
weeks.
vacancy in the Arbor Tech
So we have
area, too.
two current arbor tech positions that we're looking to fill, have
So
candidates
those
for.
are jobs that we've been doing without, but not because we could do what we needed to
Right.
without them.
Yeah,
Okay.
the-
Just want to
the Public
clarify
Works
that.
Director,
Okay.
yes, and obviously we've had an operations supervisor that's been vacant now since June as well. So quite a few high-level positions we are actively working with HR
I
and
think,
filling.
yeah, I think you made it clear that it was a one-time
Yes.
opportunity, but I wanted
Absolutely.
to clarify that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Are you staying up here for the?
Want to hand it off to our
Great.
team here?
Okay.
Great.
The first order of new business is ordinance number 2026-03006, an ordinance amending Schedule H of Section 2393 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code requiring stop signs at certain intersections on Grove Street and Anderson Street at High Street. And I apologize, Chandra, if you had any questions for Vince. He is still here if you had any questions.
I did have one question. It would have been trivial, but what's the timeline for this whole project?
We would hope to start construction in April 2026 and then be done hopefully prior to winter in 2027.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to start with you next time, Chandra, so you get first crack. All right, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm filling in for John Zeman for these first three items. So the first one we are looking at, City Council is being asked to pass the attached ordinance that would remove the existing yield signs and replace them with stop signs for both directions of traffic on Grove Street and Anderson Street at their respective intersections with High Street. So I pulled up on your screen the area that I'm talking about. So the little triangles that are kind of faded, but you can see them there, or where there were originally yield signs, and we are proposing to change these to stop signs. So they have actually been replaced with stop signs on December 5th in a temporary capacity following the Traffic Commission's approval. So the further explanation is given in the discussion here. Engineering Division reviewed these intersections after the request came in to make this change and found that the existing yield signs for the minor streets, Grove and Anderson, were not permissible per the current edition of our Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices that's put out by FHWA. So basically, that is because the intersection sight distance is inadequate in these locations for yield signs. Basically, a driver would need to see the oncoming traffic from a distance of 160 feet before the intersection in order to safely use these yield signs, because in this area we have a design speed of 30 miles per hour. So in a neighborhood like this one, with the location of many houses and other residential buildings, this sight distance is infeasible. And this is why the yield signs have been replaced with stop signs for the safe operation of these intersections. Take any questions
All right,
on this one?
question, Chandra, we'll start with you.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Sharice?
What precipitated these yield signs being changed to stop signs?
A request by residents of the area. They're concerned about the lack of stopping and speeding through these intersections.
And just going and people, because I see there aren't any stop signs at all on High Street where they stop at those.
The other intersections do have stop signs. So at these red dots on the other intersections, there are stop signs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But for High Street, this is still an uncontrolled intersection through Grove and Anderson. The stops would be along Grove and Anderson to stop at High Street.
Okay.
All right, other questions? I have a question. So are there other, I mean, I'm quite familiar. I've lived on that street for many years. I don't anymore. But are there other intersections in Urbana that have yield signs?
There might be. John thought there were some in another neighborhood in Urbana, but we're not sure. These haven't been reported to us by our signs expert at Public Works. Recently, we made him aware that if he encounters any yield signs that need to be replaced, to bring those to engineering so that we can evaluate them to see if they would actually be better suited to have a stop sign in those areas. But I'm not aware of other yield signs, yeah.
Okay, so to the best of our knowledge, these are the only remaining yield signs in Urbana.
Correct. To the best of my knowledge.
Okay, all right. With that, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll do it. Ordinance, I move that ordinance number 2026-03006, an ordinance amending Schedule H of Section, is that it? Okay, Schedule H of Section 23 to 93 of Urbana Local Traffic Code requiring stop signs at certain intersections, Grove Street and Anderson Street at High. Be moved to City Council. Can I do that on a consent agenda?
You can.
On a consent agenda for approval.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, there you go, Chandra. And I believe you are the chair of the Traffic Commission, so that's appropriate. All right, we have Sharice moved and Chandra seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, that moves forward. Thank you. I assume you're here for the next couple ones. Okay, let me read this one out real quickly. The next order of business is ordinance number 2026-03007, an ordinance amending Schedule J of Section 23-183 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code, prohibiting parking at all times on certain streets from Vine Street from Pell Circle to Florida Avenue.
Okay. So, for this one, City Council is being asked to pass the attached ordinance that would prohibit on-street parking on both sides of Vine Street from Holmes Street to Florida Avenue, and on the east side of Vine Street from Pell Circle to Holmes Street. So I'm showing you these locations here on your screen. The blue dashed line, there are currently, well, prior to this analysis and going to Traffic Commission with all of this, there were no parking signs at all the blue dashed locations that are shown here. So the map is split in half. You can see it's split where the yellow line is. So you've got some duplicated area on both sides here. The yellow, which I'll get into in a second, is where there is an existing no parking ordinance to justify the no parking zones. And then the red is a newly proposed no parking area that currently has, well, it has temporary no parking signs now as of February 19th, but we are proposing permanently having these as no parking areas. So the existing no parking signs on both sides of Vine Street from George Huff Drive to Florida Avenue, yeah, just showed you that, though, and on the west side of Vine Street from Holmes Street to George Huff Drive. However, it appears the only no parking signs on the west side of Vine Street from Holmes to George Huff are those that are supported by the ordinance. So that's the yellow. And we are not aware of any other ordinance to support the no parking signs on Vine Street from George Huff to Florida. Now, for the discussion and the background information, prohibiting the on-street parking on the east side of Vine Street from Pell Circle to Holmes, that is part of this red area here, if you can see my cursor, yeah, is recommended because vehicles parked in this location would obstruct the safe stopping distance, sight distance for northbound drivers. So that is what this analysis on the next page is all about. The stopping sight distance is the distance traveled by a vehicle during the time it takes a driver to see and identify a hazard, apply the brakes, and stop the vehicle. If a driver cannot see a hazard far enough in advance, they will not stop their vehicle in time to avoid a collision. So this is the sight distance analysis that was completed by John Zeman, according to the procedure of the Bureau of Local Roads and Streets Manual published by IDOT. So I will now try to explain this analysis. So first, R here is the radius of the curve. So that's our existing curve of the road. The radius is 340 feet. The posted speed of this area is 30 miles per hour. So the design speed for this area would be that plus 5 miles per hour or 35 miles per hour here. So this is our curve for 35 miles per hour design speed of a road. We go on the vertical axis where our radius is at 340 and come over to our spot here, which brings us down to the horizontal axis, gives us a distance here, a middle ordinate distance in feet of 23 feet. And what this means is that we need to have 20 feet or 23 feet distance of clear space, so with no obstructions for sight, from the center of the travel lane to the shoulder edge. Correct me if I get any of this wrong, but yeah. The center of the travel lane is this line right here that I'm pointing at, and then the shoulder lane is here. So this translates to the width that John has drawn out here on our diagram over here. So this is the center of the travel lane in this line right here, and that length was determined on our curve to be 225 feet. And that was used to dictate which graph was used in the manual. So that's why John noted this L less than S, L being the 225, S, the sight distance for this speed is 250. So that's determined up here in our graph. Anyway, that's just to say that's why he used this specific graphic that's given in the manual. So this tells you that we need to have this width here be at least 23 feet of clear distance. And in our case, it's measured to be about 14 feet here from the center of travel lane to the shoulder edge. So he drew out what the 23 feet would look like to show that this should be this free of sight obstructions like parked vehicles, but not considering the trees or poles in the area. Okay, so that is why this is proposed to add no parking to this zone right here from Holmes down to Pell Circle on the east side of the street. Prohibiting the on-street parking on the east side of Vine Street from Holmes to George Huff is recommended to provide continuity in this area so we wouldn't have a gap in the no parking zone from this curved part of the street up to this area that's already signed as no parking. And because this is a narrower portion of the street, 30 feet versus 40 feet, if we did allow parking on both sides, it would be a very narrow traffic travel lanes. Okay. Finally, going into community impact. So there was a traffic commission meeting on December 2nd. After that meeting, John mailed the owners and residents of the properties adjacent to Vine Street from Pell Circle to George Huff Drive to notify them of the proposed on-street parking regulation and ask for their input. So the packet includes that notification letter and the map of the properties that were notified. And comments were received from a few residents before January 26th, and then that input is also provided here. On January 26th, John worked with the police department to move forward with this recommendation to install the no parking signs as a temporary measure on both sides of Vine Street from Pell Circle to George Huff Drive. So like I mentioned earlier, these were installed on February 19th. Prior to that, on January 28th, John mailed the same property owners and residents to notify them of the new parking, the new no parking signs that would be installed as a temporary regulation and ask for their input. And as of February 20th, Public Works received more input from the same residents, and that input was included in your packet as well. So, finally, while this recommendation is not based on any crash analysis, the history of crashes in the area did not dictate this recommendation. It's intended really to reduce the risk of crashes. So it should also be noted that Vine Street is classified as a local street, but it can be considered a high-volume local street with more than 1,000 vehicles per day. So this is John's statement here. In my opinion, the higher volume of traffic is a good reason to reduce the traffic safety risks, and the potential safety benefit is worth the cost of inconveniencing the residents by removing the on-street parking in this location. Did I miss anything? I think I can take your questions now.
All right, questions. Chandra, we'll start with you.
None from me right now.
All right. James.
I'd actually like to ask the council's allowance for me to say a few things about this because my name appears in this many times.
I'm going
And
to save that for discussion.
I don't, because I feel it's more part of the presentation, and I want to
Okay.
make sure how this happened was represented properly before we go into discussion.
Okay,
before the
I'll
motion
allow it.
occurs. And so what I will tell you is, first of all, so I've lived at Pell Circle, my house in Pell Circle, since 2000, and I am very familiar with this area. And I started looking at this prior to being on city council, but there were issues with Schedule J online. It had been corrupted at some point, and so the no parking ordinances that had historically been made were overwritten by something, and so the stuff in Vine Street, everything, I think below Washington Street had been overwritten by somebody copying down or pasting down or what have you. And so at some point, I finally just asked the question of John Zeman about this situation. And the reality is there's no parking on both sides of the street from Florida to George Huff, and then only one side of the street from George Huff to Holmes. And there is a place, not many people realize this, but Vine Street did not go all the way through until about 1985. So the street south, Holmes and south, and the Vine south of there was built to different specs, and that's why I assume it's 40 feet wide instead of 30 feet wide. And when they connected those, somewhere around 1985, I don't know exactly when, I'm only going off the aerial photos, but the northernmost house that's on that connecting part was built in 1986. So that's why I'm assuming that. That's where it narrows, about 200 feet north of Holmes Street. Vine Street goes to that 30-foot wide. And I never quite understood, because I didn't know all of the background, why it wasn't, wherever it was 30 feet, no parking on both sides. Because while it is not a main road, it's a key road during snow removal. It is plowed more frequently than some of the other not main streets. And so having it narrow and having people parking on the street at the point where that narrows, I thought interfered actually with snow removal. And so what I asked was, because Schedule J was messed up, I asked John to look at this and see, you know, if we had lost at some point that the ordinance was the same all the way through and somebody didn't post signs, that happens. Sometimes you have things that are on books that you don't have the signage for and vice versa. And so I was asking about that. The other thing, if you would move back to the picture of the curve, the other thing I asked him, if you notice there, that curve along Vine Street, what I'll call the outside of the curve, has hash marks, has a painted hash area there that indicates you're not supposed to be there. And so I said, you know, having lived in this since 2000, there have been 5 automobile accidents and 1 motorcycle accident where people failed to make that turn and ended up either in my neighbor across the street's house, my neighbor next door's yard, or the tree for one of the houses just down the street. I don't have the traffic records, but I can tell you the exact 6 times that I was around when there was an accident in that location. And so I asked John about that curve, whether with that hash mark on there, it should have no parking posted for that too, on the outside, on the west side. And so that's where my feedback went in this. And the Traffic Commission looked at this. They agreed with my assessment of the narrow part of the street, that it should be consistent. And that's the stuff north of Holmes, essentially 200 feet north of Holmes. But in looking at it and using a professional's eye and how roads are supposed to be designed, they came up with this additional need to do no parking on that curve there for that reason. And I received feedback from a couple of people, including the resident who's here and a resident who is right in the middle of that green blob there, asking if that no parking could be not put in for that curve. That resident there has a very specific reason why they have people park at their house. And so I followed up with John and I said, my concern was only about the place where it's 30 feet instead of 40 feet. If there's a way to leave off the part about the turn on Pell Circle, please do so. And he came back to me and gave me all of the nitty-gritty details of why, in his professional opinion, and the Traffic Commission's opinion, it should be that way. And I said, I can't tell you how to do that part of your job. That's not in my expertise. And so that's how we got to here. The part I was most interested in was the place where the road is narrow and we allow parking in one place and we don't allow it in the other place. And so being consistent with that is what I was looking for. And it is, it's a little bit of a weirdness of the fact, not a lot of people know that Vine Street didn't go all the way through until like 1985. The subdivision to the south was completely built out before they did that last connection between George Huff and Holmes. And so that's why it's weird. And it's probably why the ordinance for it, for no parking was weird. And it couldn't have been since 1950 because the road didn't exist until 1985 in that particular area. So thank you for your indulgence.
All right, questions?
Could I respond to?
Yes.
Yeah. So the council can, take the ordinance as it is written and move forward with John's recommendations, or you can do as you have suggested, where all you would change on this ordinance would be to remove the second line of the table that is on the first page, the Vine Street from Pell Circle to Holmes Street on the east side. If you just remove that line, you can go ahead and this would update Schedule J, but it would not prohibit the parking on street from Holmes Street to Pell Circle. So that is an option. It is up
Chris?
to the council.
So I just want to ask James, do you want to amend?
There's no motion.
I would not be against that. I would ask for somebody else to propose that amendment, but I would support it.
I'm wondering if you could speak to the public comment in terms of your opinion, in terms of how the process went. I know that it is new information that Schedule J is partially missing. I'm thinking of going to the Wayback Machine to seeing if we can rectify it somewhere, if we can figure out when it was overwritten. But I wanted to give you, Carmen, an opportunity to reference what public input was talking about.
Are you just referring to the lack of an ordinance to have the no parking in these zones, that's missing from?
Well, that's missing, and then I took bad notes, but they were talking about another meeting to ratify the changes that were made. I believe after public input, there was another change, and did that go to Traffic Commission?
I believe the timeline is laid out in the packet of, December 2nd, there was a Traffic Commission meeting. Then the letter was sent out after that. Received comments until January 26th. January 26th was input from the police department. January 28th, a second mailing went out to the property owners. And then February 19th, the signs were installed. So the only change, I believe, that happened since the Traffic Commission was the change that's in the last paragraph before the recommendation in here about
West side.
the west side, but I don't think that that's what the resident was referring to. I'm not sure what was missing from the process or if another Traffic Commission meeting would be required. My understanding is that Traffic Commission is an advisory commission to all of you, and so their input are recommendations to you and not a requirement for you to move forward with this.
Okay. There are no other questions. I would entertain a motion, and before that's given, I'd like to request that motion be sent to the regular agenda. So if we have some additional questions, we can iron those out. Sharice.
I do have one question regarding somebody's email that asked about if in addition, they didn't seem to have a problem with the no parking thing, but they were also asking if in addition, the speed limit could be changed. And what I noticed is that the analysis that you have is in that equation, and I don't know anything about this, but, and I'm not good at math. It seems like the equation also includes the speed.
It
And so
does.
if you lowered the speed, if at all possible, maybe, and the thing is what I understand from being a driver myself is not everybody's going to go the speed limit no matter what. But I just want to know if that had ever been considered.
Yes, so in this graph that you're seeing, if the speed limit is reduced, say to 25 instead of 30, then your design speed would then be 30, and we would go with this other curve, and it would change the distance that's required. So in this case, I still think we are coming up short, or we're just short of that distance that's required there, because we're just under 15 here at about 14 feet, and we're getting 13.6 available there. If you went all the way down to 20 miles per hour, then if cars are actually driving 20 miles per hour and you're using the design speed of 25, then yeah, the required distance for clearance is less and would be within the tolerance there.
But you'd have to take it down to 20 miles an hour, basically buggy speed.
And
Okay.
hope that people actually drive that slow.
Because you add the 25 because people generally go up to 5 miles an hour higher than what the speed limit is?
I believe that's the intent of the design speed, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, would somebody be willing to give me a motion?
I'll move for ordinance 2026-03-007, an ordinance amending Schedule J of Section 23 through 183 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code prohibiting parking at all times on certain streets, Vine Street from Pell Circle to Florida Avenue, go on a regular agenda with certain amendments. Can I say that? Put it
Yeah,
that way?
you can. You can state what they are if you.
I don't remember because James said it and I don't remember what that was. What was or you said it.
Yeah, I'm wondering, perhaps Carmen can tell us what are the exact words that we should strike?
Yeah.
My mic was off. You're looking to take out the no parking from this section from the ordinance? Okay, yes, then the exact words that you would strike would be the second line of the table. So the second line that's listed under parking prohibited at all times would be Vine Street, Pell Circle to Holmes Street on the east side.
Okay, with the amendment of traffic code prohibiting parking at all times on the east side of the street? Or east side of the
East
street?
side.
Of Vine, from Grove to, from Vine to,
Between Pell
Vine
Circle and
yeah.
Holmes Street.
Pell Street to Florida.
No, Pell Circle to Holmes Street.
Yeah, that. Pell Circle to Florida.
How's it going, Darcy?
Sorry,
So
Darcy.
we can also just concisely say removing the second line of the table from the parking prohibited as in there, because am I correct that as well in the title, we're also prohibiting parking on the west side of Vine Street from Pell Circle in there? Like that's one you want to keep, you just want to get rid of the east side, correct? Yes, okay, so we can just remove the second line in the amendment?
Yeah, removing the second line achieves the goal.
Yes, from the table, okay.
Okay, I have a motion, which is amending.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion by Sharice, a second from James for the regular agenda. Discussion. All right, seeing none, all those in, James, do you have a question or a discussion?
I just want to thank council for working through that. I understand that the recommendation was something different, but that was not what I was hoping to see accomplished, which was for the narrow part of Vine having a consistent no parking on both sides of the street. And with this change, that accomplishes that and responds to at least one of the residents' concern. I do think that the other person who raised the concern about the speed, I think John's feedback to them was that we probably need to consider putting a speed limit sign close to where people turn off Windsor onto Vine, because Windsor has a different speed limit. And I think that's a question for a different ordinance, but I think having that speed limit sign as people enter Vine Street would help with the people speeding up the street.
And also to consider, there's an elementary school on that road. Or is it on Anderson? Did I mess it up?
So
Sorry.
Anderson, it was
It's on
Wiley.
Anderson. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, that motion moves forward. On to the next item. We have ordinance number 2026-03008, an ordinance amending Schedule H of Section 2393 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code requiring stop signs at certain intersections, 4 intersections in Behringer Commons subdivision.
All right, bear with me. Okay. It's always easier to see it in a map, I think. There you go. Okay. Okay, so City Council is being asked to pass the attached ordinance that would require approaching traffic on the terminating legs of 4 T intersections in the Behringer Commons subdivision to stop before entering the intersection. So this is Beacon Hill Circle at Behringer Circle, Clarion Road at Abbey Road, Clarion Road at Behringer Circle, and Hayden Drive at Beacon Hill Circle. So these are mapped with the darker red dots on your screen. And, yeah. This is just for the stop signs. This is also showing these proposed speed signs at these locations, that these are entries into the neighborhood from areas of higher speed limits on High Cross Road and University and outside of the city limits here. So this was discussed at the December 2nd Traffic Commission meeting. These are uncontrolled intersections currently with no stop signs or yield signs. Each of the 4 intersections listed is currently uncontrolled, just with no stop sign or yield sign. The addition of the stop signs for the minor legs of the 3-leg intersections would indicate the appropriate right-of-way at each intersection and be consistent with the signage pattern throughout the subdivision. So you see where there's existing stop signs, the kind of shaded red circles here, so adding these would be consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. If the attached ordinance is passed, staff will update Schedule H of Section 2393 accordingly. Any questions on this one?
Let's start with Chandra. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, with that, I would entertain a motion.
And she looks at me. Okay. I will move for ordinance number 2026-03-008, an ordinance amending Schedule H of Section 23 to 93 of, I want to make sure I'm in the right one, of the Urbana Local Traffic Code requiring stop signs at certain intersections, 4 intersections in Behringer Commons subdivision, be moved to a consent agenda for approval of City Council.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Sharice, seconded by James. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, that moves forward on the consent agenda. Next up is resolution number 2026-03009R, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a right-of-way dedication for North Lincoln Avenue along the frontage of 1407 North Lincoln Avenue, former fire station number 3.
All right, so moving on to the exciting topic of right-of-way dedication. This is a right-of-way dedication at a property that the city owns along Lincoln Avenue that will create consistency with the right-of-way lines to the north along Lincoln Avenue. So likely wasn't done before because we controlled the property and there wasn't really a need to, but now that there's no longer a fire station there, we are looking at doing something different with that property. We are going to clean up that, or proposing to clean up the right-of-way in front of that. So this resolution would approve the right-of-way dedication at 1407 North Lincoln Avenue.
Questions? Chris?
When you say do something, we're talking about demolishing that building and building a grocery store there, right?
Yeah, I believe that's the intended future use for that site.
Yeah, thank you.
Chandra, do you have any questions?
I guess I'm trying to understand what dedication means.
So there's.
Is it I'm sorry, go ahead.
So in this case, and we can see where this has been done in previous years, the property is, and I can try to zoom in, the existing property lines extend out to include this hatched area where we're showing proposed right-of-way dedication. So what this would do would effectively take that space that's hatched right there and make it right-of-way. So it would no longer be part of that parcel. The city would own it moving forward and have control over that space.
I get it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion and look at somebody else.
I will, since this is in my ward, move for resolution number 2026-03-009R, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a right-of-way dedication, North Lincoln Avenue along the frontage of 1407 North Lincoln Avenue, former fire station number 3, to consent agenda for approval to the city council.
I'll second.
Okay.
Moved by Sharice and seconded by Chris. Discussion. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, that moves forward. Last on our list is resolution number 2026-03010R, a resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code for the state motor fuel tax for Windsor Road from Philo to High Cross.
All right, as if it doesn't get more exciting than right-of-way dedication, this is a resolution that would approve spending from 2007. This is part of our IDOT MFT audit. So it was found that there was a little under $8,000 that was spent from the city's MFT fund that was not approved through a resolution at the time and therefore allocated or obligated from our MFT funds. So we had the money, we spent the money, we didn't go through the proper formalities at the time to do so. But fortunately, we can still do that now retroactively. So this is a resolution similar to what we now bring you for future projects to approve the spending of those MFT dollars.
Questions? Sharice?
So we're retroactively correcting a what?
Clerical error, effectively. Yeah. So this is just cleaning up our paperwork. For us to be able to spend state motor fuel tax dollars, we have to come to council to approve it. That kind of creates the project and allocates those funds. And then we can spend those funds down, but we can't spend more than was allocated. So we are now retroactively approving
the funds that have already been spent.
Yes.
Okie dokie.
Any other question? Oh, I'm sorry, Sharice.
Go ahead. No, ask away for questions.
Okay, are there, Chandra, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I will move for resolution number 2026-03-010R, a resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code, state motor fuel tax for Windsor Road from Philo to High Cross, to move for approval to on the consent agenda to City Council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Sharice and seconded by Chris. Any discussion? Chandra, I should ask you, I'm sorry that I didn't ask last time. Do you have any discussion?
No, thanks.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, that moves forward on the consent agenda, and you might have had a record here of 5 things. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is council input and communications. Is there any council input? We'll start with Deshaun.
I just want to give a shout out and congratulations to Officer Chloe and the Urbana Police Department for having raised over $4,000 for the 2026 Special Olympics Polar Plunge. Obviously a great cause, and they were, if I'm not mistaken, the top fundraiser amongst all law enforcement agencies in the region. So congratulations and great job representing. Thank you. I'll leave the other thing for Alderperson Quisenberry to talk about.
All right, Chris.
Thank you. At the Saturday, February 21st teach-in about reparations and Black liberation at the Independent Media Center, it was said, reparations must be built as a system of repair that centers Black voices and provides long-term support. A real reparations system must include Black voices are at the center where power is shared and is not just performance. We should fund Black-led organizations with the expertise that we need to pay attention to, with humility and with a real desire to change. We need to fund infrastructures and not just events. The resources must reach the people and be a long-term investment that funds sustainability and not just survival. There needs to be material repair in housing, land, education, wealth, and stability. There also needs to be healing repair with mental health access, trauma recovery, wellness, and restoration. At the Wednesday, February 25th, Breaking the Cycle of Domestic Violence and Teen Dating Violence, hosted by Courage Connection, it was said by the panel, teen violence can become adult violence. There are many pressures that keep domestic violence relationships going on repeatedly, and any funding for evacuation also needs funding for sustainability. There is no correlation between having more policing and a lessening of violence. Law enforcement does not solve violence. We need to restore the village and invest in the most vulnerable. We need to build respite spaces to heal. At the Thursday, February 26th Ward 7 listening session, it was said, there ought to be a branch of the Urbana Free Library, a coffee shop, or a Dollar General out on South Philo Road instead of a police station. There needs to be reasons to come to South Philo Road with attractive offerings for people to walk from surrounding neighborhoods. Property taxes are a burden. There are concerns about the boarded-up apartment buildings owned by out-of-town landlords in the South Philo area, and there was a question whether the city could take them over and create rapid availability housing. It is too difficult for small business owners to rent vacant properties out on South Philo Road because the landlords ask too high a price, and there is thank you for this. Let me speak.
All right, thank you. James?
I did want to thank the residents of Ward 7 and others who joined us at St. Matthew Lutheran Church on South Philo Road on Thursday for the first of a series of listening sessions. We're looking forward to seeing the other ones scheduled, and I hope everyone has a chance to come out to one and say what they feel like they need to say in support of how we make this town better. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, with no further business in front of this committee, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.